Hey guys, welcome to episode 94. Alright guys, so we're here with another great guest. This one I found off of Instagram. As I was just telling her off mic, I'm always trying to research, great guests for the show, but also great representations of their actual condition, because people have preconceived notions on what we go through and, especially individually, and what their condition, they'll see, especially with her condition, they'll see from afar, and in her case also hear, and they prejudge and don't really know what's going on. So once I saw some of her videos and what she was fighting for, and I thought she was just a very powerful person, so I wanted to have her on. So why don't you tell us who you are, what your condition is, and just a little about yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Becca Braccialle, also known as Tourette, being on TikTok and Instagram. And I have Tourette's.
Right. So I'm assuming is Tourette's, like, tell us a little bit about just Tourette's as itself, because there's a lot of, people have their own thoughts on what it is. And
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions.
Right.
So Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder that is mainly characterized by tics, which are involuntary movements and sounds. So whereas the average person can control their actions, someone with Tourette syndrome can't do that, and the brain misfires signals and makes us do things we don't want to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And with you, what I found fascinating was you were reading one of the videos I watched. You were reading something, and you were trying to focus on a specific word, and then you just went off into a bunch of tics about that word.
It's kind of like a word association, but my brain just doesn't filter anything out. So anything that rhymes with it or might sound similar or anything like that, my brain will just throw out those words without me even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like a complete losing control. Like I said, it was because I saw you do it multiple times, and I'm like, wow, that's just super interesting. It's almost like you have no filter, but you don't even have control of even what. Yeah, you have control of nothing. At certain points.
Yeah, exactly.
Because obviously, when you do have control, now, you say what you got to say.
Which sometimes I do have a lot more control, but some days when I'm ticking a lot, it's just a lot of random stuff comes out. I can be walking down the street and just shout that I've got a sandwich or something like that. It's really, really random.
Right.
So it can be an associative thing. So I think of something and I associate something with it, and my brain just shouts out whatever it. It's kind of on a phone when you get oh, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called.
Say that again.
When when you're typing a message. Oh, predictive text. That's it.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like my brain's on predictive text. It makes no sense, but it wants to put it out there anyway.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, and I've seen people online that they say they have Tourette's, and you don't want to say they don't, but some people I feel like they're just trying to say offensive things just because it's again, there are people that say all kind of shit, but I don't know. Is there people in your community you feel, or people that are trying to just, as a joke, just to do Tourette's, just say curse words and just offensive words?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially more recently because on TikTok more so than anything else, there's been a lot more creators with Tourette. It's made a lot of people want to have that sort of attention,
Right.
which we explain a lot. It's not just shouting inappropriate language and things like that. That's not what Tourette's is, because it's actually only 10% of people with Tourette's that do that. The vast majority of people with Tourette's just say words or make noises and maybe have a few twitches and stuff. It's not all the shouting inappropriate things, but a lot of, especially younger people that maybe want a little bit of attention recently, have been posting about it and trying to kind of get away with things and say that they have Tourette's, which is quite harmful to the community, really, if they don't think about their actions like that.
Right. Well, and we're also in a time now where everybody's getting canceled for everything. So now, like, it was like, well,
Yeah.
here's a cheat code a way around it. Let's just say I have Tourette's and
Yeah,
I can say
yeah.
whatever I want.
Yeah, whereas now with all the people like me and a few of my friends as well with Tourette's, we're getting called out for being fake when we're the ones that aren't faking. So it kind of is a dangerous game, really, all this cancel culture.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that stuff comes back to you, whether it's a job down the road or, I mean, obviously the more fame you get from anything, in your case, social
Yeah,
media, it'll be like, oh, remember this tweet on, or this post on TikTok at, October 9th, 2020, you said this. And
yeah,
it's like, yeah, I couldn't control that. I mean, I guess you didn't have to post it, I guess, unless it was live. Well, I mean, you still didn't have to post it, but but it's like, you're trying to show, like I said, when I found you, I could tell you were really advocating for people.
yeah,
With
which
that.
it is really difficult because I have to really pick and choose what things I do upload that I've said, because sometimes I can say like racist or homophobic slurs and things like that, and that's not me at all. Like, I wouldn't ever say anything like that, but my brain will just throw these words out. So I can't put that on the internet because I know that people will straight away see that
Right.
I'm saying those words rather than see that I have a disability that's making me say things I can't control. So they'll be very quick to say, well, okay, you must say that in your everyday life then if you say it as a tick.
Right.
Nope. I say penis plaster as a tick all the time. I don't usually say that in my everyday life, but
Yeah, I saw that a few times where I don't remember what you were trying. You were reading something, you were trying to say something, and then penis came out of nowhere, and you said it like 8 times. And I was like, oh, it's like she's
Yeah, it's one of the ones that my brain always goes to. I don't know why.
right. I mean, hey, is what it is. It's probably. I mean, if I had Tourette's, I'd probably say the same thing. So it is what it is. Um, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's got to be very frustrating because, like I said, there's people that are like faking every disability for the most part, like even blindness. Like I'm visually impaired. I don't know how much you know about me, but
Yeah,
but I mean, it's less likely because it's just that's more of just like a joke, like, oh, look, I got a cane, I can't see. But in your case, like
mm,
it actually is harmful to your community because when they do that, then it takes away everything that you're trying to do, and just not even just about what you're trying to do is even if you didn't advocate, but just takes away from what your condition is because now people don't believe you. Now you're just on a
yeah,
train
exactly.
or you're in public and you're just saying offensive or just profanity, and it's like, oh, okay, she's just crazy. She's just the homeless crazy girl that's just saying
Yeah,
random
yeah,
shit.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, and then that's gotta be frustrating. What is it like? I mean, you're a beautiful girl. Like you're a very smart person. Like, what is it like to be
Oh,
an?
thank you.
You're welcome. What is it like to be an adult and trying to have conversations with some people who don't understand and they can't take you serious all of a sudden because now you have these tics. Like no matter how mature you are, no matter how old you become, people are still gonna look at you like, oh, I can't take her
Yeah.
serious.
So for me, my onset of Tourette's was actually in adulthood. So I started getting my kind of flare up of tics, which became then what it is today, when I was 19. So I'd gone pretty much my whole life without having no control over the things that I say. I had some small tics that were movements and noises, but nothing that was like verbal.
Hmm.
So automatically, people then started looking at me completely differently. And that was really, really hard to kind of grasp because I've always been someone that like can be, I have opinions and I like to talk about things. I like to kind of try and get my point across. And then all of a sudden people weren't taking it seriously because in the middle of saying something really important, I would just throw out a random word and it kind of throws it all off. So it took a lot of getting used to because throughout my life I'd had complete control, and then all of a sudden as an adult it was like, oh, what's happening? So I kind of had to find a way around that. And now I just kind of use humor around it. So if I'm speaking about something serious, so for example, I was doing a presentation at college not too long ago actually, and I was trying to speak through this presentation, but unfortunately, especially for someone with Tourette, I got the subject of reproduction, so that was a fun one to try and do without ticking. So I ticked a lot, but I just kind of make jokes out of it and then carry on, and people still learn from it. So I think as much as people don't take me serious, I think because I then make humor out of it and I kind of use that to my advantage, I've found a way to make people listen to me more.
Right. Yeah, and you got to get to a point where, like, I did an episode just on race and stuff because, I'm white, but I grew up in a Spanish culture part of my life.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to talk about all the racial stuff that goes on here in the United States and all that. And so I said some words just to take away the effect of those words and so on and so on. And I wanted to talk to a lot of my friends that are different races and just, how it came off to them. And they said it was great as long as it comes in context of, you were saying the right thing. It came from the heart, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't really matter as long as you meant well. And so, and obviously with you, you can't help this, but, like, you're just who you are. You have to own it. And, there's people going to be mad at you. There's going to be people going to be offended and all this other shit. At the end of the day, it's you. Like, and that's why I like about you. Like, you have fun with it. You make fun of it. Like, you don't really, I'm sure at some certain times it might affect you, but overall, like, you don't take it too serious.
I think it's pretty much with me is the Tourette has made me have to be completely and honestly myself, and I can't be anything but now because my Tourette's will just expose me anyway. So I kind of just have to be myself, and what you see is what you get. Really, I don't tend to let things bother me too much. And if I do, I let everyone know so that they see that I do have struggles as well. But I think, it's kind of just owning it, like you said, and it is what it is. If you don't like it, you don't have to stay, sort of thing.
Right. Well, that's the stuff. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, but also just, like there's so much mental health that goes into everything, and when just stuff bothers us, like, it's frustrating. And with you, like, like I said, on the outside, you look perfectly normal. And, again, it goes back to people. They say, well, people with disabilities, like, we're equated to the guy in the wheelchair. Well, most of us in our community aren't in wheelchairs. It's just, that's our logo. So you can walk, see, hear, you can do everything perfectly normal, but you have this one thing that just is impeding on your life, and it's super frustrating. But what's great about you is you're so honest, and you own it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people, it beats them down. And the fact that you can have humor and sarcasm about it, because
I think laughter is definitely the best medicine. And with the wrong representation of disabled people, I think it definitely is hard with people just assuming that disabled means that they physically can't move. Because I personally have disabled parking badge, because for me, as stupid as this is going to sound, it rains a lot in England, and when there's puddles on the road, my ticks do not think before I run out in front of cars, and I will run and jump in the puddles for no reason. So it can be quite dangerous, which it can be funny at the same time. But things like that, and not having complete control over my actions can be quite dangerous. So I have to have disabled parking so that I'm closer to the destination I'm at, so I don't have to walk across roads as much. But people automatically just think, oh, you're being lazy. You're trying to use your disability as an excuse. And it's just not the case.
Right. Also, you have physical tics too? Like,
I do, yeah.
Jumping in the wow, I didn't even know that was a real thing. I thought it was just a verbal.
Yeah, so Tourette's, I think to be diagnosed with Tourette's, you have to have both. So you have to have at least two types of physical tics and one vocal tic, I believe. But I have a wide range of all of the types of tics that there is, basically. I don't think there's any that I haven't got at this point. So it can be anything from just kind of twitching my neck to my legs completely giving way and me collapsing on the floor.
Right. Wow.
It's it can be very physical as well. And then punching myself in the head a lot. I end up with a lot of bruising and things like that. It can be quite dangerous.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. 'Cause when you said earlier about some people will have they'll curse, or some people will have, noises, but from watching your videos, like, yeah, you have all of them I haven't seen you hit yourself, but,
Yeah. So I don't tend to kind of upload that stuff as much because I think automatically when I'm like that, I don't tend to pick up a camera as much, which I do try to sometimes. And on my TikTok, I've got some videos and stuff of my tick attacks because tick attacks are kind of really big outbursts of ticks, and they can get quite violent for me. So I can hit walls, and I've had points where I've kind of had a really swollen wrist because of how hard I've been hitting things repeatedly because my brain just doesn't know when to stop. So it's kind of a lot more physical than people realize.
absolutely.
And it's not always easy to show that side of things because obviously I can't necessarily film myself.
Yeah.
But I know there's other people out there that do kind of show more of that as well.
Yeah. It's gotta be very, very harsh. I mean, it's gotta be like a real reality check when people see someone beating the hell out of themselves.
Definitely. And it's like silly things as well. Like if I'm going shopping and I pick something up and throw it, that's not socially acceptable. So I think people are like, oh my God, she's so disruptive, when again, it's not the case. I just can't control my actions all the time.
Right. How are people with disabilities treated in England?
I'd say it's mixed. I think physical disabilities are taken a lot more seriously than anything that's kind of hidden,
Right.
especially during the pandemic. I don't know if you've seen, but there's the sunflower lanyards that have been used quite heavily in the UK.
No.
So we have these green lanyards that have yellow sunflowers on them. And we had them before the pandemic, and they were just to signify to like staff in shops and places like that and airports that the person wearing that lanyard has a hidden disability and they may need assistance.
Okay.
But as soon as the pandemic started, everyone assumed that it meant they were mask exemption. So people were just going and getting them and saying they were exempt. So they've kind of taken the meaning of that away.
No, when you mean
So it
exempt,
kind of,
do you mean like they were vaccinated?
no. So there was some people in the UK that we can't wear masks. So we had exemptions on medical terms.
Oh, okay. So you're exempt from wearing masks. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So we had the mask exemptions, and people were just using the lanyards as a way to get out of wearing a mask, which was frustrating because then for all the people with like the hidden disabilities, it was kind of taken away the only bit of kind of visual thing that we can show people that we have to say we have a disability. So then we were just kind of looked down on as if we were just faking it and just using the lanyard for nothing.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
So it has been really frustrating.
I don't think we did any thing like that over here. It's a good idea, but I can easily see how that can just be turned around and manipulated.
It was a good idea before people started misusing it, which now it's slowly going back again, which is good, and I'm glad it is. But yeah, it's been a bit of a nightmare, really.
Right.
But fuck you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you could just be you. Don't worry about it. You said this is something you're born with, right? You said you didn't start getting like really bad tics until you were 19. So is this something you're born with, Tourette's?
Yeah. So with Tourette's, it's in your genes, so it's genetic. Okay. And it's not always Tourette's that comes from those genes. So it can be Tourette's, OCD, ADHD. They're all kind of in the same family. So if you have that, if you're a carrier of that gene, you may live with that gene and never trigger it. Mm-hmm. But in my case, I triggered it, and that's what brought on the Tourette syndrome. So mine kind of triggered when I was about 14, but we didn't realise because the tics were so minor that we never would have even considered Tourette's. Right. And then I had a car accident when I was 19, which is what then brought on the stress and the trauma, and then brought on more tics, and that's when my onset got really big.
Yeah, I remember when it was a while back because we tried to get this done a few times, and one time you couldn't do it because
Yeah.
you were. Did you say you had a seizure? I forget what it was.
Yeah. So, as well as Tourette's, I have a functional neurological disorder. So my brain just hates me basically,
Uh-huh.
and I have a lot of non-epileptic seizures.
Uh-huh.
So, like, most days I'll have like a couple of little seizures, but on that day specifically, I had one of the bigger ones where I was then really, really drowsy afterwards. So I could barely even string sentences together.
Wow. Yeah, because I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know every in and out about your life. So when you said that, I was like, well, I didn't even know you had those. And because we tried to
Yeah.
get this done multiple times and just our schedules, but that was the first time it got canceled because your health. And I was like, shit, I just felt terrible
Yeah.
for you. I just wanted to make sure you were all right. Um,
Yeah, I was all right. I'm kind of used to it now. It's been going on for about, well, I got diagnosed in October, so it's been going on for a little while more than that.
right. So, but one of the things I was trying to get to with like high school and all, because you seem to really get lucky then if it didn't start really kicking until 19, you kind of got through high school and certain like did you have any kind of tics then, or were they very subtle?
They were very subtle, like barely noticeable. So luckily, it wasn't anything anyone noticed.
Right.
It was more something that I was just aware of, but I didn't know it was tics. I just kind of thought, oh, my eyes keep twitching. Why do I keep blinking all the time? Or, oh, my neck keeps doing this weird thing. But I just kind of didn't think anything of it because it wasn't anything major and it didn't majorly affect my life. So I am lucky because I did get through school without any of that. And I know there's a lot of young people that struggle a lot through school with it because they get bullied for it and they struggle with focusing in class, and there's a lot of discrimination against them. So I really did dodge a bullet there.
Yeah. Is there a stigma attached to people who come out and say like I have Tourette's? Like when that label's put on you, is there something that people just react to when it comes to that?
I think it's automatically the swear words, like the inappropriate language. People just assume
Right.
that that's all that Tourette's is. And it's usually, oh yeah, my cousin's dad's brother's girlfriend has a dog. Why does it have a dog?
Right.
Has Tourette. And it's kind of, people just assume that they know everything about it when that's definitely not the case.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of stigma attached to it that, oh, I saw a documentary on Tourette's one time, and so I know everything about it, and it's just really not the case at all.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I did enough. I got to, being an advocate for people with disabilities, I ended up started doing a little more research and started looking into it. But before that, like just younger, I think the two imageries I had was like a South Park episode, and
Yeah.
and it was a movie. It was called like Deuce Bigelow, and there's like he dates a girl with Tourette's, and she just says horrible stuff out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
I think the South Park one comes up a lot.
Right, and again,
a lot of people,
yeah,
have seen that.
Because they do well. I mean, and in fairness to them, like they do a lot of stuff just to get reactions, but they do it in a way to put out a different image, and they're talking about, there actually is a deeper meaning to some of it, but people don't really think about any of that. So actually one of the things that happens in the episode is, because they don't even really have to delve into Tourette's at all, but they found a kid and he's in a grocery store and he's saying horrible stuff, and one of the main characters, Cartman, he hears that and he realizes, oh, he could get away with saying horrible stuff, and one of his friends is Jewish, so he starts saying just Jewish stuff and all kinds of things. And I mean, like it's funny, but then like I'm sure if you have the condition, again, you have a dark sense of humor, so maybe you can maybe you would like it, but in general, yeah, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, whereas someone who's taken advantage of it by going, oh, I can just say horrible stuff.
100%.
And that's probably the most like viral, or the one, I watched South Park And that's one of the images that I saw. I was like, okay. And again, not that I immediately equated that with Tourette's because I knew enough about it before I saw that episode, but it was like, oh, okay, like, you know, that's sure that's one of the things that people are gonna relate to. Like, oh, okay, South Park, Tourette's,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And then here in the UK, there's been a few documentaries. There's a few people that were kind of filmed a lot when they were younger in the UK, and they have really bad Tourette's to the point where they swear and shout at people constantly. And I think because there was so much focus on that in the media, nobody saw Tourette's as anything else here specifically. So they just saw that because it was such a popular documentary that automatically they assumed that that's what Tourette's was for everybody. And don't get me wrong, like the documentary did say things about it not being the same for everybody, and it's not only inappropriate things, but nobody cares. They don't listen. They just see someone shouting and saying racist things to people and telling old people they're going to die soon and things like that, and they just go,
yeah,
oh, okay, well that condition means that's what they do. So they just automatically assume that everybody with that condition does the same thing. It's not like that at all. It's kind of, Tourette's is like a fingerprint. It's very different for every single person that has it.
Well, that's the internet. People have been saying racist things and telling people to die for years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
I mean, now they're just trying to use it as an excuse, and
exactly.
Which is what it is, I guess. I don't know. I mean, again, there's just good and bad with everything. I mean, I think everyone says when the internet first, now in hindsight with the internet, it's like 50-50. The good it's done and the bad it's done, because there's so much bad, but there's so much good. You know, there's a reason why you and I even met in the first place. It'd be the internet. So,
yeah, exactly.
But one of the things
I've met some of my closest friends through the internet, so it's a great place.
Yeah, of course. One of the things that you said is fascinating is about how, like, the gene and how you could have, you know, ADHD or what was the other one?
OCD.
OCD, yeah, and which is fascinating because you think about some of these people who are like, they just keep washing their hands all the time. Like I know a friend of mine who has a friend, and he just washes his hands all the time, and it's like, yeah, I guess that is just like one step over. Like that's something that it's possible for you to do anyway. So I guess yours is just kind of the extreme of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like so OCD is based on like compulsion. So you feel like you need to do it. It's not involuntary, but you feel like you need to do it. And a lot of people actually with Tourette's have OCD as well. So I personally do. They kind of, because they're all linked, you can have multiple of them. So for me, I have the OCD, the ADHD, and the Tourette's.
Oh, goodness.
The Tourette's is just the biggest one. So my OCD, for example, is I might realise I don't like the way something's organised, and I cannot do anything else with my day until I redo everything with it. But there's also a side of OCD that you might be walking along the street and your brain will have like a really bad intrusive thought and go, okay, if you don't cross the street right now, your family are going to die. Like it's really, if people don't realize how kind of strange like it can be, they just see like the cleaning side of it, which a lot of people do have the cleaning side. But it's more than that. It's kind of all these intrusive thoughts and the feel like you need to do something, otherwise something bad's going to happen.
Right.
So the combination of that and Tourette's can be quite difficult, because if I tick and the tick didn't feel right, I'll have to do it again for the OCD. It's a very complex situation.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little of it because
the brain's incredible.
No, absolutely. Yeah. If it's off just by a little bit, your whole body's just totally different. Yeah, I have a little bit of OCD where like I don't know why, but I always have to do something in like an even number. It annoys me. It's just like if I like tap my knee, I'm like, I gotta do it a second time because I hate odd numbers. And it's like, why do I care about this shit? What does it matter? But it's like little things like that, and then all the way up to like some people that literally can't leave their house because they feel like something bad's gonna happen to them and stuff like that. It's crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking,
So, so you said it's a gene. Can you pass it on if you have kids?
yeah, I can. I think it's a 50-50 chance that they will get the gene. Um, but then obviously whether they trigger that gene or not is a lower percentage. But there's like a strong chance that if I had 4 children, at least one of them would have Tourette.
Okay, so it's not for sure that they're going to have Tourette's, but they will have some form of OCD or
They
whatever.
could, yeah, so they could have, again, if they trigger that gene. It's just that they have that hereditary gene in them, but they might just not trigger it at all, and it might not ever come forward, and they might just lead a normal life and never have anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. Um, what is it like for you to just be out in the dating world? And I mean, I don't know. You might be married. I have no idea. But what is it like to actually go out and try to date? I mean, you're a pretty girl, but you have something
Thank
that
you.
really makes people go like, oh, I don't know if I want to date that, even though they shouldn't. So
Yeah,
what is dating like for you?
I think I'm lucky because I am seeing someone,
Okay.
um, and she is absolutely fine with it. She's not got a problem with it at all. She's just kind of used to it at this point, to the point where she'll kind of just know that something's a tick before anyone else does, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So she's very much, if you say anything offensive, I'm not bothered by it, and things like that, which has been really nice. It's been really accepting. But there has been other people that, I mean, when I first got Tourette and I started speaking, they were very quick to block me on social media because they didn't want to know.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for people with disabilities in general, but with you,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, like I said, yours is more of a verbal thing, um,
I think it's a factor as well that I think people assume that the things I say are the things that I think.
right,
Um, so if I turned round to someone I was on a date with and said, "Oh, you look really fat," people would automatically assume that I meant it when that's not the case. It's usually completely random and it's not my thought at all. So it's really hard to get that across to people because they think that I'm just like I can't control saying what I think. But the majority of the time, the tics are not my thoughts at all.
right, yeah, and that's complete opposite for other people because if you were to somehow press a button and trigger everyone's initial thoughts at that moment, a lot of stuff is going to come out that people didn't want to come out, but it is what they were actually thinking,
Yeah,
and they did have control of it. Except now we're forcing it out. Whereas you, it is
yeah,
absolutely random. There's thoughts that are just sometimes it's
yeah,
just like you said, your brain hates you, and it'll just
yeah,
say the worst stuff just in the worst opportune moments, and not good.
yeah. It's not very often that tics are nice to people.
No, and of course, I'm sure you say someone's fat, and there's actually a fat person there, and you're like, oh shit,
Yeah, definitely.
it's gonna be terrible. Um, so what made you want to start advocating and doing what you do on TikTok and Instagram?
So I wasn't diagnosed until October last year, um, and I've kind of been struggling it for a little while. Like I'm 21 now, and obviously I was struggling with it since I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of research to try and figure out what was wrong with me because I couldn't figure it out. And I'd spoken to doctors, and they'd all said, like, it's fine, whatever it is will go away. So I had a lot of unanswered questions. So I turned to the internet for support, and I made friends online that had Tourette's, and I said, I think there's a possibility I could have Tourette's. I'm not sure. And I eventually got a diagnosis of it. And it was then that I realised there is not many people my age that get diagnosed with Tourette's. It's usually children or teenagers, like younger teens. And I kind of wanted to be that support for people who were going through the same thing I did, where they had so many questions that were unanswered and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with them, because I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I had no idea what was going on. So I wanted to kind of create a platform where people could learn a little bit more and have a better knowledge base to go off of to try and get the help that they need, while also raising awareness in general and breaking the stigma, because I do want there to be less stigma so that I can lead more of a normal life.
Yeah. And
a lot of people did come forward and kind of ask me a lot of questions, and I have had people come back to me like 6 months later and say, hey, I actually got a diagnosis because I watched your videos and things like that.
Yeah. That's the best part.
It's definitely a positive thing, because I felt like, as much as it was also kind of therapy for me to kind of speak to someone, even though it was the whole internet.
Yeah.
It was nice to help other people as well.
Well, you're taking, I think that's, I've had a big, frustrating with doing this, just trying to get people with disabilities to support, because we don't like to support each other for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
But it's like, what I try to put it out there is like, you guys don't understand. There's a lot of us that are putting ourselves out there to be super vulnerable, like what you're doing. And you're showing the internet just about everything about what I'm going through. And it takes a minute for me to actually want to do that and then accept it and be comfortable with it, because your mind is always going to go back to, oh my God, I'm looking stupid, or I'm ugly, or all these horrible things that your mind wanders off to. And it's like, by doing this stuff is helping you, because you don't have to do it, or it is making it easier and more comfortable for you down the road, or for your children, or whoever has this, by putting yourself out there and so raw and just essentially naked, where you're just like, I'm here, I'm taking all the brunt of it, me and, however many other people, 100 of us, so that you can live a comfortable life. It's for the greater good. It's for the whole, community and everyone with that condition, so that people can accept us. And it's not, if you support and you pay attention and you get your voice out there, the more of us can actually live a comfortable life without any shame.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's, like I said, that's what we have to do. And it's not always, I'm not going to speak for you, but it's not always fun. It's not always pleasant, where there's times where you say stuff and it's great that you're being raw and you're saying the most honest things that come to your mind, and you're showing every bit of what you go through. But there's also a part, it's kind of taxing on you mentally, where you're like,
yeah, definitely. Especially when it's like around my friends and family, when I'm saying really nasty things to them, it's really hard sometimes, because I might turn around to my nan, who I'm very close with, and tell her she's going to die soon because she's old. Like, I've said things like that, and for me, like, everyone else will say, oh, that, like, it's fine, no worries, like, we know you don't mean it. But for me, it upsets me, because I'm like, oh my God, I really don't want to say those things. Like, even if no one else is bothered, it bothers me because I'm saying it. So it's kind of frustrating. As much as it can be funny, it can be really, really horrible, because you don't want to say things and you can't help it.
Yeah. Do you ever, and I'm sure you have, but do you ever have those moments where, I don't know, like you said something racist, or, you called someone fat. Do you ever like actually wonder, like, wow, is that really a thought I have? Like, am I really that bad of a person?
Yeah. So I think with Tourette, and I know that a lot of other people that I'm friends with Tourette have the same sort of thing, where a lot of the time they'll think badly of themselves because of the things that they've said. And there's even times where I've sat at home and I've not ticked for a little while, and I've convinced myself that I'm faking it, and it's
wow.
stupid. And then I'll tick and be like, oh wait, but
back.
It's like, because of the way like the world works, we'd much rather like convince ourselves that we're faking our disability than accept it, because it would be easier if we were, because then we could just stop, you know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I
Penis pasta.
there you go.
There it is.
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, I'm like when you said earlier about how your brain hates it. I mean, I've always said that about mine. I mean, again, I don't have verbal tics like that, but every time I try to, or every time I feel like I'm doing so good and I'm making a difference, my mind just goes like, what's the point? You're not doing anything
Yeah.
of reason, and why? Why don't you just kill yourself, or why don't you do it? And it's like, Jesus Christ, mind, like, where does this come from? Like, how do you fix? And
Yeah.
and it's frustrating because there's people out there that are always like, take this supplement and do this and do that, and you just got to change the way you think and change a couple words around to do this, and that all sounds great on paper. It really does. And don't think I haven't tried some of that, and some of it is beneficial, but it's there's no, I don't know if there is any like complete drastic change. It's just you have to just keep fighting, and hopefully good things happen to where it can make your life better. But yeah, I mean, again,
it's like, I love the comments when people are always like, if you pray, it'll all go away. And I'm
that
like,
one too, yeah. Yeah.
If I could pray and it would all go away, I would be praying, mate.
I had a guy at do you guys have Dunkin' Donuts down there?
We don't have it where I am, but I think we do have them in the UK.
Okay, so you know what it is.
But I know what it is, yeah.
Right, okay, so so you go through we went through the drive-through, and some of the places down here we're still having trouble getting. People don't want to go back to work because they have that whole unemployment. But I think it's about to run out any day now. But people don't want to go back to work because they're getting more money than what they were getting currently working. So. So they're not. They only have the drive-through right now because they only have a couple workers that can go in there. So there's no dining or indoor dining. So we went to the drive-through, and right as I was paying, he was like, "I just want to pray for your eyes," and I'm like, I wanted to be a dick, and I wanted, like, if he does it again, I will. But I was just like he's trying to be super nice, and I'm just like, I'm not in a bad mood right now, so I'm like, sure, go ahead, sir. Because it's. I remember being in a Bible study once, and I'm not really religious. But my friend was like, you want to get out of the house? I'm like, he didn't really tell me exactly what they were doing, and I was like, sure. And I ended up turning the whole thing upside down because, not that I'm just a heathen, but it was like they tried to use the one of Jesus's miracles, was it 36 miracles, whatever it is. He cured blindness. And I'm like, don't do that.
Oh, wow.
Don't do that with me. Like, and I'm not completely
blind.
A lot of, yeah. Go ahead.
Like a lot of people want to give everyone with a Tourette's an exorcism.
Yeah.
They tell us we're possessed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have they ever tried to? And I'm sure they have. Have they ever tried to hypnotize someone with Tourette's to try to see if it would go away?
No one's actually tried it on me, but I know that people have tried it with other people.
Yeah.
I think people would rather believe that they can fix something than that it's actually something that's wrong. Like, especially as well with people saying like, oh, if you just take turmeric tablets, and I'm like, there's no cure for Tourette.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's not going to help. They're like, well, just stop. If I could just stop, I would.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like you said, some of these people really do mean well and all that, but it's like, you guys, how dumb are you? Like I'm not. If you believe in God, that's fine, and you say He can do all this, but then at the same token, you say He did this for me for a purpose, and so He's not going to reverse it because I turned into the person that I am because of this. So which one is it? You can't have both. And so you got to just deal with idiots, unfortunately. But I've gotten that a couple times. It's like, well, we'll pray for you. We'll try to pray it away. And it's like, man, that sounds cute. It really does. It's adorable, but that's not going to happen. I'm
like, thank you, but all the prayers in the world aren't going to do anything now.
Right. And I'm as content as I'm going to be with it at this point in time in my life. So we're just going to ride this thing out until the wheels fall off. And that's with my body, with my eyes, with everything. So you go on.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, don't waste your prayers on me.
people don't take into consideration as well. Maybe we don't want to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we're happy as we are. They just assume that because there's something different about us that we automatically need fixing, when that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are so used to their disabilities and things that it's become part of who they are, and a lot of people wouldn't change it now.
No, I mean, you're starting to see, like, with the Disability Pride Month and all that, you're seeing
Yeah,
people that are more accepting and loving of who they are and what they lack.
yeah, and it's great to see.
Yeah. For so long, we just were so embarrassed and timid about, of just exposing our disability. Like, oh yeah, we have it. Because some people can hide it. I mean, that's where the whole invisible disability
Yeah,
stuff came from. All these chronic pains and, some, like with you, you held it in for a good while, as much as
yeah,
you could. And even I, with my eyes, a lot of people are like, well, you don't look visually impaired or blind. And it's like, because I don't have a dog or a cane, but
yeah,
I suck. It's just I can I'm good with knowing my surroundings, so I can figure stuff out and kind of manipulate the world around me so I can function properly.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think as well with oh, I've lost my train of thought now. What was I going to say?
I've been there.
I do that a lot.
Uh huh.
Um, with like disabilities and things, I think people kind of don't think that we're able to do anything. I think it's not actually that we're not able to do anything. It's more that things aren't made accessible to us. So
Yeah.
I think if there was kind of more adaptations made, like in job roles and things like that, then there would be a lot less people that would be kind of labelled disabled as such. It's not that we're completely unable to do anything, it's just that our bodies work a little bit differently. And that's one of the beautiful things about being human. Everybody is different, but why is it so frowned upon to be different?
Right. Well, and look, I've said this many times on here. I am not a word person. I don't want to get people get fired for stupid stuff. Now, if you're just being, if you're sexually assaulting someone or, you're being overly racist or whatever. But if someone says something in a joke and someone overheard it, like, I don't know, I don't know how to deal with it. But in the day,
Yeah,
I'm not a word person. But when you bring back to the word disabled, and I've talked about this many times where I remember back in the day I'd play all these video games, and one of the missions in this one game was like, oh, you have to disable an alarm, which means it doesn't work anymore. And
yeah,
you add a D, that's what we are. So you're essentially saying
yeah.
we don't work. And I don't know about in your country, but in our country, 75% of us are unemployed. And so
Wow.
you put the word together, now it actually makes sense. And then you say, like, well, okay, disabled, like, in my case, my eyes don't work, or maybe yours, your brain doesn't work, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
It's like, it's fitting because people look at that and they take the actual, literal meaning of it. And it's like, oh, well, they just don't work. Their eyes don't work, whatever.
yeah,
And so people look at that, and that's the imagery they have of us. And I'm sure you've gotten it. And I know every person that I've ever interviewed or come in contact with a disability, we've all kind of been perceived as slow or as some sort of mentally challenged or whatever term you
yeah.
want to use these days. And it's simply just because people don't have any information and anything that is different. We
No,
shun it
that's
off.
right. Yeah. I think people automatically just assume that we're broken, and we're not. We're just different. And I think that's one of the great things about people trying to raise awareness for disabilities and things now, is that it's okay to be different. Like, no matter what is different about you, there is nothing wrong with you. Like, you are still an amazing person, and you are capable of doing anything you want to. It's just that things are a bit less accessible to us, and we are viewed differently, which is unfair. So it can be quite, like, there's a lot of discrimination, isn't there? So I think that's the only problem, really. If things were actually made accessible and I don't know, that they could work hours around people that maybe can't work all day and things like that, it would just be so much better, and that unemployment rate would go down so quickly.
Yeah.
I think people think as well that, like, I know in my case, people think I'm lazy. I don't work because of my condition. They think that I don't want to work. I just want to sit at home and do nothing all day. Trust me, I don't, because I am bored. I am very, very bored. I would rather go out there and do a job. Like, I wanted to go to university and become a nurse or a midwife. I can't do that. It's like we give up the dreams that we have because society says we're not able to do them.
Right. Did you ever think about doing something like this? Like a podcast? Something, YouTube channel, something where you can talk and have people on and, you know, advocate that way? Because you're advocating through TikTok and Instagram, but it's much shorter videos.
Yeah. Yeah, so I recently started a YouTube channel. I've put one video up so far, and I'm going to try and make some more. Good. But it's very long, and it's not necessarily knowing how to do everything. It's a lot of learning. But once I've learned, hopefully I can do a little bit more of it.
Yeah, I mean, any questions you ever have, just please, and you can message me anytime.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I've been doing this for a year and some change, and like I said, anyway,
and you know a lot more than I do.
Any way I can help, just please let me know.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I know you're new to your disability as far as like the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Was it refreshing? Was it scary? Like, what was your initial reaction when you finally got the answer that you've been seeking?
I think it was a bit of both, really. It was kind of relief because I knew I wasn't going crazy, but it was also really daunting because I was like, oh my God, I've got this for the rest of my life. Like, what is my future going to look like? So I think it was a bit of both. My family as well, I think it was really hard for them because the doctors had said so many times, there's no way it will be Tourette because I'm too old to develop Tourette. Yeah. So they got it in their head that it was going to be something that was going to come and go, and it was going to be over at some point. Yes. And then, like, my mum, who went to the neurologist with me, she's now been told that her daughter has a lifelong neurological condition. I think it is quite a scary thing. And it took me a little while to kind of get used to it. But I feel like once I then started kind of accepting it, and I think a lot of people thought, okay, you're saying you have Tourette's a lot. Like, it's not the only thing about you. Why are you talking about it so much? I was talking about it so much because I didn't want it to be a bad thing to talk about. And I think automatically people think because it's a disability, I shouldn't want to talk about it all the time. But as much as it is a disability and it does negatively impact my life a lot, it's also made me so unapologetically myself. Yeah. And it's kind of given me this access to creativity I didn't know I had. And I'm not ashamed of it. And I think people think people with disabilities should be ashamed and hide their disabilities. But I'm proud of my Tourette's. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm not going to hide it, sort of thing. So the daunting feeling kind of faded pretty quickly because I realized, actually, I've got answers now. So now I learn to deal with it, and then I move on with my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that kind of really stood out to me when I was watching your videos. Like I said, you were so honest and unapologetically you, which is so refreshing because there's not many people like that.
No.
You know, and because, you know, being an advocate myself, like I started wondering, like, my words start to carry a little more and it start to matter. I'm like, I got to kind of watch what I say. But then on the same token, I'm like, as long as I'm not just completely up here just saying the most horrible atrocities, I'm fine. Like, just be you and don't worry about it. Like, you know, you're going to piss people off, but that's just life.
Tell them to fuck off.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, fuck off.
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah, that's what it is. You know, and that's, yeah, you just got to own who you are. And like I said, I think there's nothing more beautiful when you see these people with disabilities who are just like, look, I'm sexy, I'm smart, I'm all these different things,
Yeah.
and we're overcoming it. And that's why I think with you, I mean, you're so young, so you can figure out what you really want to do. But I think the more you put
Yeah.
yourself out there, the only advice I can give you when it comes to like doing something similar to what I'm doing is, if I didn't start this a year and 2 months ago, I don't know what I'd be doing. I mean, I'd still be doing my other job, but so much has come from it. I met so many amazing people like yourself, but also
Yeah.
I got to go back to my school. I did a Zoom meeting because of all the COVID stuff, but I got to go back to my school and talk to all the visually impaired and blind kids that go to school there and talk to them.
That's
And
amazing.
I got to be on like a little council thing to help people with disabilities, like make wheelchair access available, some of these parks in town. And again, I got to just interview so many great people, and someone made me a website because they became a fan,
Yeah,
just,
that's amazing.
yeah, and just stuff like that. Just, I'll get an email from somebody, or just from Ireland, and just like, hey, I'm I just listened to your podcast. You really helped get me through the day. And it's like, I don't know who the hell that is. I don't even know who the person is that made the website. I still don't know who they are. They didn't want any credit. They just said, here's your website. I mean, I gave them credit, but I don't know their name. I don't know who they are. They just created a website that was kind of perfect. It was simple, but perfect.
Amazing.
And it's just like stuff like that, where it's just, that would have never happened if I didn't put myself out on a big stage, or whatever you want to call it, and just, like I said, make myself vulnerable and just say, hey, world, like, I'm going to especially when I talk about mental health, I talk about every aspect of it. I talk about wanting to kill myself. I talk about all the shit because I can't be afraid to, because there's a lot of people right now that are sitting in a dark room and they just want to kill themselves, or they're looking for every reason to check out of this world. And it's unfair for me to just get on here and just kind of sugarcoat things and just tiptoe around it, or even with the visually impaired stuff, or just people with disabilities in general. Like it's unfair for me to get up here and just kind of tiptoe around everything. And one of the reasons why, easy I say it off mic, but one of the not for any reason, just to kind of get to know each other. But one of the reasons why I started, or when I started this, I was literally just talking about mental health, and I was talking about my life and everything, nearly dying, and all this stuff happened to me. And I was interviewing my friends, and they all had visual impairment, and they were blind and all that. And look, I love them, and they were great interviews. But one of the things that really stood out to me was something felt wrong. Like, I felt like I could be doing more. Like, why not delve into the whole community? Because then I started going through a whole little like back channel of all these other podcasters and of different disabilities and similar ones to mine.
Yeah.
And they were only staying in their avenue. They didn't want to delve out to the broader scale where there's way more conversation and you can find ways to actually have real unity and all that. And they weren't doing it. They were doing the same thing that kind of what I was doing, sticking to what I knew. And it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, I want to help. Like, I don't have to give a shit about any condition, but I do, because at the end of the day, we're kind of all pushed into the same category, the guy in the wheelchair logo, whether we want to or not. And that's why my big goal is to just bring a lot of us together, and then we can differentiate at the end and say, look, this is why we're all different. This is why we're all amazing, but in our own ways, and not just because you think we're all the same. We're different in so many different ways. Even if you had the same disability, we're different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's, I can see what you're doing. Like I said,
so everybody's story is different, but everybody's story is equally as valid. So I think it is amazing that you're sharing so many people's experiences and kind of getting some education out there for different disabilities, because there is a lot of people that are too shy to do that, and there's also a lot of even disabled people that will look at other disabilities and go, oh, well, that's not a disability. And we should all be supporting each other, not bringing each other down,
Yeah, and absolutely. Like I said, when I found you, I was just like, okay, I want to have her on. If you didn't respond, you didn't respond. But when you did, I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, I need to have someone, like, because the more voices we have speaking up, the more of us we stick together and support each other, the stronger we become. And there's so many of us, but we don't really look out for the whole community. We're always kind of looking out for either our condition or ourselves or people within our circle. And it's like, no, man, like, we got to think bigger.
Yeah, that's right.
When you look at, like, and I've said this so many times, I hate repeating myself, but when you look at at least here in the States, when you look at people who are fighting for racial equality and gender and just even women just fighting for each other, they are thinking bigger. Even if you don't agree with everything that they say and they're fighting for, because some of it is corrupt and all that, but they still have a cause and they're still coming to the table and they're demanding things. Whereas us, it's like, we're not. We're they're just these small pockets. Even though there's 1.6 billion of us, we could do so much more with our intelligence and just how much we actually know about the world, because we see the darkest parts of the world through our own minds. And definitely. Just, like I've said before, like I see more than most people. I just don't physically see more than most people. And you see the harshest parts and how people treat you, but you see the good in life too. And and some of our senses are stronger than others because our senses go down. Like there's so many different things that make us extraordinary that it's like, if you just really listen to us and actually understand us and let us, come to the table and tell you why we can bring something to this world. But we're so beaten down, a lot of us, that we just feel like, nope, we don't, we're useless. And that's what I want to change, because we're not. We're far from
I think you're doing a really good job at it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just, that's the thing I said. We just have to continue. Like, I support so many people with disabilities from people. I mean, if I've had them on the podcast and they have a show, I've either already done their show or I'm going to be on their show. And if they have stuff like yours, like little snippets on Instagram or YouTube, I'll support it because I care, and one, because I'm super fascinated. Like having you on, I didn't know a shitload about Tourette's, but I want to learn with the audience because I want to know too, because I want to know what you go through. Like I didn't know you were beating on yourself, and it's terrible, and I feel for you, but I also like feel happy for you that you're this awesome of a person, that you can share that story, and there's someone out there that will hear it and go, I'm going through the same thing, and they don't feel alone, because there's a lot of humility in saying like, I punch myself and I say racist things and I do it. Like it can't be easy to just come out and say that, especially now that you
not at all.
I mean, at least now that you know what you have, which is great in some ways, but when you look at it, it's like you have to come out and say, like, because, even when you first said it, like, like I say this stuff and it just comes random. Like when I first heard it, it just sounded weird in my ear. It was like, I can't even I can't even fathom that, because anything that comes out of my mind, I mean, sometimes you say random shit, but it's something that's always been up there. And it's a thought you've had at some point in your life, but with you, it's so sporadic and so everywhere. Like you don't know what's coming out, and it's like,
no, I'm just as surprised as everyone else when it comes out.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, most brains are going to hear that and go, what is she talking about? And because it makes no sense, but it makes sense in your brain, and it makes sense to people like you. And that's why, like I said, back to the mental health stuff, where there's so many of us that are just so depressed and such in a dark place. And we really, even though there's a crap load of people with Tourette's and visual impairment and every other condition, but we feel so alone because there's no one in our town and there's no one in our country or whatever that's like us. Or we feel like that anyway. And the more people like you that speak up, it's like, oh, now they know that, there's someone out there, no matter, even if they're hundreds of thousands of miles away, they know that you exist. And so now they want to go on, and now they want to explore their comfort zones and, show the world that, hey, I'm okay with having Tourette's or whatever condition.
Yeah, I think that, you couldn't have put it any better than that, really.
Thank you. Towards the end, I always like to let someone, whatever their condition is, like kind of talk to like the younger version of you, which is weird because you're young, but someone who's just kind of, whether they got their diagnosis or they're just coming to terms with having Tourette's, like, do you have any like advice on how to kind of navigate life, no matter what their tics and, whatever the severity is of what they're going through? But how do you have any advice for them?
I think honestly, it's just a matter of remembering that you are still an amazing person and you're strong, and you shouldn't care what other people think of you no matter what. And I know it's hard sometimes to kind of see yourself as anything other than disabled, or kind of try and see the positive in your conditions. But I think if you try, you really try, and you accept yourself, you're going to be a lot happier. And I think that if anyone had told me that when I was younger, I would have been a lot happier a lot faster.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, it's finding happiness is something. It sounds so easy. It's like, well, you just got to be happy.
Yeah, and also it's okay not to have a plan for the whole of your life. Like, that was something that I really struggled with when I first got my diagnosis. I had plans and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I was so set on what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, I felt like my world had like crumbled and fallen apart. When actually, I'm only 21. I don't need to know exactly my life is going to be like in 10 or 20 years. Like, I could wake up one day and think, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do today. And that could be the one thing that changes my life completely. I don't have to put a time limit on how long I've got to kind of figure everything out. I think taking each day as it comes is so important.
Well, that and you were in a horrible car accident, so I'm sure. I mean, you had a near death
Yeah.
experience. You came close with it, so
Yeah, it wasn't.
so your appreciation for life is every time you wake up is like, well, I got another 24 hours or whatever. Even you can't even say 24 hours. I got another, another chance at doing something positive.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, was another thing that's amazing about people with disabilities is like we kind of appreciate life more, even if we curse it sometimes and we're frustrated and we say like, oh God,
Yeah.
life sucks and it's hard and all that, but we still kind of appreciate some of the little things that most people don't.
Yeah, I think that was for me at first. When I first kind of started getting the tics and stuff like that, it was a lot of, oh my God, why me? Like, why do all the bad things happen to me? And now I see it in a completely different way, that actually I, yeah, I have had it hard, but there are people out there that are also going through that, and I want to help them as much as I can. And I think that's one of the main things that I try to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have like anything to promote? I never asked you, but if you have any, you
Oh,
could promote whatever you want.
just my TikTok is at Tourette's being.
All right. Yeah, and
That's pretty much all I do.
that's your Instagram too, right?
Yeah, it is. They're both the same.
I really appreciate you for being on. I enjoyed your conversation. Hope we can be friends and talk outside this more.
Yeah, cool.
Um,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
of course, if you ever, like I said, if you ever need just like a friend to talk to, please reach out. Anytime you want to talk, I'm here.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Like I said, just thank you for just being you and not really worrying about what other people say, and just continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, cool.
All right, sweetie. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was great. I enjoyed her. She said something off mic before we got on. Just, I'm sorry if I say anything. I'm like, sweetie, just be you. I don't care about that shit. I think it's kind of fascinating, just how it comes out of nowhere. But yeah, she's a delightful person. I enjoyed her conversation just as a person. She's just. Oh, I think she was still on the line there. Whoops. But yeah, I enjoyed her just her honesty, because it's got to be hard in this time frame to just tell people I'm gonna say the worst things possible. All right, it's a potential. Potentially, I can say something really bad, and the fact when she said her mind hates her, I just immediately was like, I feel you, sister. No, I really, I fucking like I don't have that, like the tics and stuff. I don't have any of that, but I do have like the OCD but just beyond that, my mind just hates me, because every time I'm feeling some comfort and some just happiness, my mind just goes, fuck you. let's find a way for you to just screw this up and be just depressed and angry, and it's like, oh, you again, go away. But like I said to her, like, being that honest is such a unique skill and such a unique quality in a human, because most people are afraid to be honest and afraid to show every ounce of who they are inside. People are afraid to show every ounce of them on the outside because, they're insecure about a pimple or some blemish, even if they are gorgeous to the naked eye. But deep down, they hate that they have like one little belly roll or something, and it's like, oh God, I hate my life. But internally, inside your brain, they really don't want to show what's in there. Whereas her, she can't hide that. So she figures she's gonna own it, and that's such a great thing. And I'm happy that people like her, specifically her, but people like her, just exist in this world. And maybe people like Tourette's are kind of what we need to be. Just fuck it. You say whatever you want to say. You know, it is what it is. Let's just have fun with it. Life is too short, and people just need to toughen up, have thicker skin, and just stop worrying about everything. Because there's so much worse out there. And, I did feel really sad when she was talking about beating on herself, and all. I was just like, wow, like, and her seizures, and all. I was just like, like I said, you have an affiliation, like, or affiliation. You have like a care, and I get really connected to these people. Like, I really do want to be their friends. And I am friends with damn near all of them. But I feel really bad when what they go through, and they don't ask for that. It's just like empathy. So, yeah, guys, I hope all is well. Just trying to think if there's any updates with me. I'm still taking my supplements. I don't remember if I said on the last episode or two, but I'm shaving all my hair because I'm having a midlife crisis in my early 30s. I will be 33 next month, but when this episode comes out, it'll be probably in March or sometime next year, so who cares? That's irrelevant. So you'll probably have already seen on Instagram anyway that I'd probably shave my head, but who knows? Maybe I'll go back on it and change my mind, right? Because that's what I do. And I don't know. I'm just trying to make some changes in my life, trying to take out some negativity, and I'm just I've kind of hit a wall here because I'm trying to figure out how to. I want to get out and just do more. I want to exercise. I want to volunteer more, but I also don't want to ask all my friends and my grandma to drive me around. So I'm trying to, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how to get around transportation because it's not easy. Uber's expensive. We don't have a cab company, but they were too expensive. I have a problem with the bus company here because we've had many problems that I've discussed here. And so I don't know. I might just do Lyft or Uber, but we'll see. But yeah, guys, I hope you're hanging in there, and we're gonna see our asses out here. I will see y'all next week.